Let's see here. I am working on my lighting, which is not so good. Let's see how that works. Maybe that's better. All right. Well, we're going to go with this. Hi, everybody. I am going to log on to Facebook so I can see my little self. If you hear a dog barking in the background, you're not crazy, because my dog is barking in the background. All right, let me bring this up. Lisa Shields. There we go. Okay. There I am. Okay. Dog barking in the background. All right, everybody. Hello, hello. My dog is... Hello. Hi, Lisa Cohen. Hello, Vicki Farrell. How are you all tonight? There are 4 comments. Let's see who else is here. Hey, Kaylee and Katie. All right. If you see someone walking in the background, that is my hub. He is back there making sure that the dog doesn't bark. All right. So here we are in beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. And let's see who's on. Who's coming on tonight? Oh, it's good to see you twice too, Lenny. Hi, Susanna. Hello, hello. All right, everybody. If you're new, hi, Sherika and Brenda. Oh, my goodness. All you gorgeous ladies. Okay. So we are going to talk about something that we are very, very familiar with. If I don't know you and I've never met you before and you're coming on these Facebook Lives, please say hello and introduce yourself. Tonight, we are going to talk about negative self-talk. And this is a big deal because, hello, Lisa Marie, I'm studying to be a relationship. Can you give me direction on training? I'm certified, but need lots of training. You know, Lisa Marie, my advice to you is just get a lot of clients, find a way, even if you have to start out small and you don't charge a lot, but just get clients and coach them. The way you're going to get great at coaching is doing it, just getting out there and doing it. When I first started coaching, I did it for free. I actually, in the very early days of coaching, nobody knew what coaching was. And so I did it for free. And then once I was in my certification, I started raising my rates. And that's how I built my practice. So, hey, Barry, it's good to see you. Yes, you have to learn to practice what you preach. Exactly. I have a policy that if you're going to, personally, I have a prejudice that you're going to be a relationship coach, you need to first be in a truly loving, healthy, long-term relationship. I think there's far too many people out there who are coaching in this area who are not walking the talk. And I hate to insult anybody, but I do feel that there's a lot of people who don't practice what they preach. So I think it's really important. Being a relationship coach is a responsibility. I actually had a good friend who wrote a book about relationships and then became a relationship coach. And she said, Lisa, I was coaching people and they were getting into relationships, but I didn't have a healthy relationship myself. And she said that she didn't have a healthy relationship herself. And she said people were using her advice and they were meeting people and getting into relationships. But she said they were getting into really bad relationships. So, yeah. So anyway, I think it's really in integrity that coaches should be coaching something that they're actually successful at. Like nobody wants a an overweight trainer or nutritionist, right? You want somebody that's got a handle on that stuff in their own lives. So yeah, it's good if you did it and you were successful at it. I think that that's great. But it's so important to practice what we preach. So tonight we're going to talk about negative self-talk, and this is a big deal. I do, for the most part, I'm just stuck on going back to this one person. I know I have way too many red flags. Well, maybe you want to work through that stuff, and then coach. If you're going to coach people, you can't just say, do as I say, not as I do, so I don't know. I'm a big believer. Like when I became a coach, it was because I really had worked hard on myself and I'd been in a very bad marriage. And then I spent years and years and years of my life working on myself. And then when it was time, I went out and I started dating, and I met the man I call the guardian of my soul. He's amazing. He's the most wonderful man I've ever known. And to have gone from such a history of dysfunctional relationships to being in the best relationship, I don't know of a better relationship than mine. I'm not saying that I'm the only person who has a great relationship, so please don't misunderstand me. But I don't know of anyone who has a better relationship. And I worked very hard for that. So I've coached women for 18 years and taught them how to do what I did in my own life and in my own marriage. All right. So overcoming negative self-talk is one of the most important parts of this entire journey. If you're going out into the dating world and you have a negative inner dialogue, you're not positive, you don't believe in yourself, you don't like men, you think men are jerks, or you don't think there are any good men out there. It's really hard to create something that we don't believe in. So, Lisa, if you want to talk to me, you need to go to lisashield.com and watch my presentation, and then we can talk about jumping on a call. So please go and just watch my 45-minute presentation, and then you can book a call with me. Thank you, Lenny. That's so sweet. So, hi, Sequita. Oh my goodness. How are you, honey? It's so good to see you here. Oh my goodness. I love this woman so much. So it's very hard. We all want to attract a wonderful, loving partner. But if you have a really negative inner dialogue, it's very hard to attract something from that place, right? It's very hard if you're in your own head, you're thinking negative thoughts, you're criticizing yourself, you're critical of the men, you're critical of the dating process. When you're in that mindset, that negative space, it's impossible to attract something positive into your life. How many of you agree? I'm just curious. How many of you, I'm curious, has anybody here been in a really bad negative space and been able to go out and create something positive and beautiful and magical from a negative mindset? I bet nobody. I would venture to guess that it's absolutely impossible to do that, because like attracts like. So if you're in a negative space, you're going online, you're frustrated, you're pissed off, if you're upset, if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're hating men, it's almost impossible to go out into your life, you couldn't get a good job, you wouldn't get, if you went up for a job and you were in a horrible mindset, nobody's going to give you a great position. They're going to give it to the winner. They're going to give it to the person who's confident, who believes she can do it, who's got it under control, right? So if you're new and you're coming on, I see lots of people on the call. Please say hello. I'd love to know who's out there. So we cannot create something positive from a negative mindset. We have got to be able to get ourselves into a positive frame of mind. Just to give you all an example, right now, I was going through a really bad time with the election, with all the political stuff going on, with everything that was happening in the world. It was almost impossible. I found myself really feeling negative and really allowing all of these external things to influence my inner world. So one of the first things that you really want to be careful of. Hi, Lisa. It's great to see you. You too, Joe. I don't know if you've been on before, but welcome. So I was feeding myself all of this negative stuff, right? With the election going on and with a lot of things happening in the world, I was watching too much news, and it was really, I didn't realize, I felt like I was just being a responsible citizen. I was staying on top of things, and that it was my duty to know what was going on in the world. And then one day I realized I just hit a wall. And I realized that all of this stuff that I was putting in my mind, these notifications that would pop up on my phone, I'd go on Facebook and there would be more, news and more stuff. And I realized that it was just endless drama, regardless of which side we're on. It was just drama upon drama upon drama. And so I looked at my husband and I said, I'm done. I have to stop. I can't keep watching this stuff. We have to be aware. If we're going to develop a healthy, positive mindset, we have to be aware of the news that we're watching, the music that we're listening to, the magazines that we're reading. Sequita says, I too fell down the toxic rabbit hole for a while, right? It's just there, and it's a vortex. And, we think that we're educating ourselves or that we're staying on top of things, but it was a nightmare. And I remember I was taking a break from work. I had just done a call. I was going down to have lunch, and I turned on the news, and it was like the same stuff over and over and over again. And I just said, I'm done, no more. So I took all the notifications off my phone. I canceled my subscriptions to different newspapers. I mean, I didn't even realize how much of it I was consuming. And immediately I started feeling better. Hi, Teresa. Good to see you. Hey, Judy. Great to have you guys back. So watch what you're putting into your brain. Be very careful. Watch HGTV, watch whatever, reruns of Friends, anything that's positive. Susanna went the whole way. She stopped watching TV 20 years ago. Good for you, honey. I don't know what I'd do without my TV to decompress at night. But watch things that are uplifting, that are positive, that feed your spirit, that really ignite your soul. Be very, very careful of what kind of media, what kind of news, what kind of television shows you're watching. It's very, very difficult right now to even find really uplifting television shows. I wish I could think of the name of that show. It was on Apple. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And it was so uplifting about the guy that went to England to manage the soccer team there. I don't know if anybody knows the name of that show, but it was so wonderful. I watched a great movie. I don't know if anybody's seen Holiday. It's wonderful. It's with Julia Roberts' daughter, Emma Roberts. It's really delightful. But Benjamin and I, my husband and I, have gone back to watching a lot of old movies. We watched Out of Africa. We watched The Man Who Would Be King. But we're watching things that really feed us, that make us feel good. You're watching, Susanna said she's watching me to decompress. But be careful. It's really, oh, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso, Sequita for the win. Yes, Ted Lasso was wonderful, wonderful, charming, uplifting, beautiful, beautiful story. So if anybody has not seen Ted Lasso, I'm so envious because I'm going to write this down. I am so jealous because it's so good. You really, really want to see it. But you want to watch things that are uplifting, that feed your soul. It's so, so, so important. Good movie selection. I must check it out. Holiday in the Wild is a good one. We'll check it out, Lenny. I'd love for you all to put some of your favorite movies there. I'll tell you a really, 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 this is a sexy movie, but it's one of my all-time favorites, and it's with Daniel Day-Lewis. Two Daniel Day-Lewises. If any of you women want to see some great movies with Daniel Day-Lewis that are really sexy, in fact, I may see the second one tonight. So The Last of the Mohicans and The Unbearable Lightness of Being are both brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant movies. If you haven't seen either one of those, Ally McBeal reruns and Scrubs are good. I loved Scrubs. 365 Days. See, these are the things that we want to watch. Kate and Leopold. All right, Barry. I don't know that one. Huh. I'm writing it down right now. Made in Heaven. Kate and Leopold. Okay. Beautiful. And Made in Heaven. Okay. Beautiful. See, this is what we need. Good stuff. So the first thing to switch that inner dialogue is to really fill yourself up with beautiful, uplifting things. Really. Yours, mine, and ours. That sounds great. I can't agree. Since COVID hit, the ex separated from my children. Then my children were turned against me and made to speak bad things about me. With the distress, I lost my mind in my career. I agreed to listen, but now I feel destroyed. Alitza, I think, then these are the times that you need to go and get therapy. You need to just get therapy. And the purpose of a dog, I like anything with a dog in it. And serendipity. Okay. These are all great suggestions. So You've Got Mail is always a good one. Always. You've Got Mail. Love it. It's so important that you just go and get help, honey, if it's not working. I love, love, love Timothy Hutton. Ha! Love Timothy Hutton. But go get help, Alitza. If your world's falling apart and things are going that poorly, then you need to go and get some help and, get some outside help. Sometimes we can't solve these things on our own. A Dog's Way Home. I love it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Anything with a dog. As long as the dog doesn't die. The problem with dog movies is they die at the end. That's the other thing. Must Love Dogs. That's a good one too. All right. So you got to fill yourself with beautiful, uplifting, positive, wonderful messages, right? That's the first thing. Then you really want to start to look at all of the negative beliefs and negative stories that you carry. We all carry negative beliefs about men, about ourselves, about fried green tomatoes. We're getting lots of movies here now. Everybody's really digging deep in those memory banks and pulling this stuff up. But, you know, you want to be able to start to look at your inner beliefs. You know, part of this is what's going on in the outer world, and then a big piece of this is what's going on in your inner world. So if you go on a date, you may have a glass of wine or be able to have a drink or whatever and relax and have fun and be a charming companion. But over time, your negativity, your unhappiness is going to start to seep through, right? Somebody who is genuinely happy is going to be very tuned in. A man who's genuinely happy and looking for a partner who's happy is going to then tune into a woman who's not happy, who is hard to please, who has negative, who has a negative mindset. And so they're going to be very, very sensitive to those things. They're going to pick up on all of that. And so one of the things that you really want to work on is becoming what I call a positive spin doctor. And what that means is you're not there to be Pollyanna, although, that's not such a bad thing, but you're there, you can talk about very real things that are going on in your life, things that are not good, challenges that you're facing. I mean, these are tough times, but you want to end on a positive note. You want to be the hero of your own stories. So you can say, my ex-husband was a narcissist, and, it was really a very, we had a terrible marriage, and it was really a struggle for me and my kids. But the beautiful thing is, I got us out of there. I knew, I got the help I needed. I surrounded myself with good people, and it's been a hard journey, but I'm really proud of myself. I'm proud of how I've handled this, how I've pulled myself out of this. And I'm really proud of where my life is today. So it's not that you don't talk about the bad things, the negative things, the things that didn't work out. In my own marriage, my husband was a pathological liar. And I spent 13 years with this man who, I didn't even know when I was in the marriage. It wasn't until I got out of the marriage, looking back, I just knew that he lied, that there was something that he wasn't truthful. And when I got out of the marriage, I realized that he lied pathologically. I was too close to it to really see it clearly. But, if I tell that story, I don't sit there and dwell on everything that went wrong in my marriage. I will say, I was in this marriage and I stayed a lot longer than I probably should have because I was afraid to leave him and be alone and have to put myself back out there. But once I left, I said, he has to figure out who he is, and I have to figure out why I picked him and why I stayed for 13 years. And when I did that, when I focused on my part, I was able to grow. I got help. I learned. I worked with a lot of coaches and teachers. So if I were going to tell that story, I might talk about, it wasn't a good situation. It wasn't a good choice, but look at where I landed. Look at who I am today. Do you all see that? So you want to start to become a positive spin doctor. You can look at the negative stuff, but you want to land on the positive stuff. That's how you start to become more positive. We get to choose when you tell stories. Kay, they may come up on a first date. It's more about the way you talk about things. It's more about how you talk about things than if you talk about them. Like I wouldn't go into detail about my marriage. I would never, ever go into the details of how, my husband said he had work in Los Angeles and I gave him my credit card and he took my credit card and completely maxed it out and he left me in Milan. We were both photographers, and we were living in Milan at the time, and my ex-husband left me in Milan with no money, with a maxed out credit card. Like, who does that to his wife, right? But I wouldn't tell that story on a date. I probably haven't told that story in 20 years. It sucked. I mean, I was furious when he got back to Milan and I was stuck there, and he told me he was wiring me money. I took a train from Milan to Lugano, and, I got to Lugano, and the money was not deposited in the bank. And then he lied about why the money wasn't there. And, but I wouldn't go into those stories. But I would, if we were getting emotionally naked and, Lisa, that's not true. It's not true that men don't want to hear details about other men. Benjamin wants to hear about my life. He wants to know me. He wants to know what I've been through. He wants to know me. He wants to know who I am. So there's nothing that we don't share with each other. We just don't share sob stories. We don't, we're not victims. I mean, what Benjamin's been through in his marriage was no walk in the park. But we really, we can talk about anything. And if you're really with a mature adult human being, that man is going to understand that, both of you have histories. You've both come through this. Who's angry at me? Somebody's scowling at me. Ooh, Kim's cleaning. She's very angry. I don't get too many scowls, but apparently I did. Maria says, how do you call a man that doesn't give a dime about a relationship, but the other person puts in everything? Well, why would you want to date that person? What do you call a man? I don't know if there's a name for that, but Maria, don't waste your time on guys like that. In my group today, we had a woman, Laura, who said something that really touched my heart. She was talking about, she said, Lisa, I did in my 12-week course that I do, where I show women how to find the guardian of their soul in just 12 weeks. This woman said, Lisa, I did my relationship inventory. This was just amazing. And she said, I realized that I was saying yes to all of these men who were really abusive, who were mean, who, were jerks. And she said, the guys who were really nice to me, I was mean to them. I didn't treat them well. I tested them. I pushed them away. And, I really related to what she was saying, that, when I was much younger, I did the same thing. I would go for these guys that were just jerks. And I would, I thought the ones that were really nice to me were weak. And I would just walk all over them and take advantage of them. And I realized in retrospect, and this is what she said on the call, she said, it just makes me so sad to think that these really wonderful men, these secure men who really liked me and wanted to get to know me and were being so nice to me, those are the men I mistreated. And I gave all of my attention to the ones who were really jerks. So it was really insightful what she said. And this is what we do. Sequita says her partner wants to know all about her relationships and life ships. Ships. I like that. Life ships. I've never heard that, Sequita. That's great. But yeah, you really, you want to be with a man who cares about you. And the truth is, if I was interested in my ex, I would be with him. I wouldn't be with Benjamin. I would have stayed in that relationship. I left those other relationships because they weren't what I wanted. So that's how I got here. And, I don't want to dwell on the past, but it's important for two partners to be able to share their past and talk about those things. You never want to hide that stuff or have to feel like you want to hide it. Katie says, I've taken time to think about what I deserve and how I want to be treated. And those roller coaster relationships are not it. Yeah, I agree, Katie. And you're right on track. The problem is if you've had a lot of roller coaster relationships, we feed off of the drama. So a lot of people who don't really have a lot of access to their emotions, or they're not really in touch with their feelings, they will go for these high intensity relationships because they make us feel. They make us feel alive. They make, there's an intensity about those relationships that they're very, very emotional. And so what happens is when you start dating nicer men, they can feel very boring because you don't have all of those highs and lows. So you got to get used to just dating these really nice, secure men, because it's a whole different ballgame. And it feels completely different. It's more of a, as one of the women was saying on a call, it's a slow burn, and it's very different. Judy says, why do we push the good ones away? My grandmother used to say she flew around the blossoms and lit on the turd. Oh my God, that's so great. I love your grandmother. Judy, we're not, many of us just aren't used to being treated that way. We didn't grow up in families where we saw our parents treating each other that way. And, what we saw was fighting. We saw people yelling at each other. We don't really see that many examples of really good relationships. And so we go out and we, for the most part, we repeat what our parents did, even if it's not what we really want. That's part of what we do in relationships is we recapitulate what happened in our family of origin, in our childhood. And so very often we will attract partners who remind us on a subconscious level of our parents, of a parent that we're still working out our issues with. And then instead of working out those issues with that parent, we'll do it with our partner. My first husband was just like my dad. When I met him, did I know that? No, not at all. But he was a pathological liar. He had money problems like my father did. He had addiction issues like my father did. And, I just attracted a man who was just like my dad. So, it wasn't, I figured it out and I did the work on myself so I didn't continue to repeat that. And I didn't want to continue having to work that out with men in relationships. I wanted to learn how to pick a good partner. That's what I teach my women how to do. I show my women, go to lisashield.com. If you haven't watched my presentation, please do. Katie says, that's what I'm struggling with right now because good men are so boring that I need to realize it's because they're secure. Yeah, they're secure. They want relationships, and they want to work with you. They're not looking for a fight. They don't want to have contention. They want a partner. They want someone to spend their lives with. And so you have to first start, Katie, to just get used to letting men be nice to you. You just got to get used to having men treat you well, just love you and be good to you. And yeah. And then eventually, once you go back to those other guys, you'll hate it. It sucks. Kaylee says that the webinar was fantastic and it helped her. Thanks, Kaylee. And Debbie says, boring, good, drama, bad. Yes, boring is good. The hard thing about the challenge with secure relationships is that it's not this hey, Virginia, nice to see you. It's not this cataclysmic thing, right? It's not like you meet this person. It's like, oh my God, I met him. It's so fabulous. Skyrockets, moonbeams, whatever. It's not like that. You really have to spend time getting to know each other. And it's going to start off, down here, and it's going to build over time, a little bit with each date. You're going to see that you're missing him. You're looking forward to seeing him. He remembers things about you. He wants to make you happy. And little by little, you'll start seeing these beautiful gestures, and it's so sweet. It's just really sweet. And then suddenly it's like, wow, this is different, but I like it. It feels really good. But you got to give these guys a chance. And you have to learn how to talk to them. You have to learn how to communicate with them. You have to learn how to ask for what you want from them. So, it's a different way of going into a relationship. But I can promise you that these are the relationships that last and really get better, not worse, with time. So Lenny said, Lisa's presentation was eye-opening. Thank you, Lenny. The adrenaline rush doesn't last, as you say. No, it doesn't. It doesn't last. It's not gonna, the adrenaline rush, it's a rush. It's like if you shot up heroin, never shot up heroin, but I'm just saying, you get this rush, this, jolt of whatever, but it just doesn't last. And then you need another hit, and then another hit, and you keep chasing that rush. Relationships can be like drugs. It can be like a drug addiction. It really can. How many of you have felt that, that addiction, relationship addiction thing? Addicted to the highs and the lows and all of that, the fighting and then the makeup sex. And, Sequita says, I've discovered that the sky doesn't fall when I ask for what I want and need. Exactly. And it doesn't fall if he says no, or he doesn't give it to you, right? It doesn't have to fall. We can be grown-ups in relationships and just, be adults. We don't have to, chase that, whatever that was. My husband said he was so happy when he got a little bit older and his hormones started to subside a bit, because, he said it's so nice not to be young and like run by your hormones. Hey, Lisa, how are you? People often transfer from drug addiction, to relationship. And you would know, of course, because this is your field. So you're the expert in this stuff. But they do. Addiction goes from one thing to another. And the hardest thing about love addiction is that the same seven, I think it's the same 7 areas of the brain light up when you're, like high on love and whatever, as they're the same areas that light up when you're on meth and cocaine. They hit the pleasure centers. The problem with love addiction is that it lights up all of these things. It has the same effect as cocaine and meth, only it's happening internally. Like if you take a drug, you know that you took a drug. But when it's love addiction, it's just happening inside of you. It's all hormones. So it's really, really, really bad. I've worked with people who have, love addiction issues, and it's such a difficult pattern to break. Anybody else have any questions? Hey, Randy, how are you? Happy almost Thanksgiving. It's great to see you. Who has questions? Anybody have questions? Anybody have questions about how to get rid of the negative voices in your head? Anybody struggling with a relationship? Anybody, were wondering how to date during COVID? Are any of you having success dating during COVID? I know lots of my clients are finding wonderful relationships. I had 2 engagements and a wedding last week, so that was good. lots and lots of people are really having success during this time. So it's really interested. Teresa wants to know about negative voices. So Teresa, you got to imagine that you have one voice in your head, which is the voice of fear. And then you have another voice in your head, which is the voice of love. And you want to learn, you want to be able to start to recognize when that voice of fear is talking. So the voice of fear is critical, negative, it's shaming, blaming, condescending, it tells lies. That's the voice of fear. And then you have another voice inside of you that is the voice of love. It's kind, it's nurturing, it's positive, it's hopeful, it's grateful. And you have to start to recognize when that negative voice is talking, and then you have to shift to that positive voice. And this is an exercise. In my course, I work with women. I teach them how to do this so that they can quiet that negative voice and they can turn up the volume on that positive voice. So Lisa says how to get a man who is guarded to open up. So Lisa, I think if you ask, if you push or if you say you feel guarded, they're not going to open up. It's just going to make them more guarded. So what you want to do is encourage him when he does share something positive. So you would say, I love learning about you. I love it when you open up to me. You also don't want to try to fix him. You don't want to problem solve. You don't want to question him when he does open up or when he shares something. You just want to thank him for being, you just want to thank him for, if he does share something or if he does something nice, you want to be complimentary, but we want to reward the good behaviors that we want to see more of. So if a man does open up to you, you don't want to say, well, why do you think that? Or tell, you want, and by the way, male vulnerability is very different than female vulnerability. A man may give you one line and that may be the most vulnerable thing he said in years. He may say, my ex-wife and I, we had a really bad marriage and she broke my heart. He may not feel like going into any more detail than that. And that may be very vulnerable for him to say something just that small, just that little. And so you might say, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I would love to learn more when you're ready to tell me more about what happened. I would always be open to sitting and listening if you ever want to share more with me about your marriage. And then you have to leave it alone. But men do not go into great detail. They're not going to tell you whole stories. A lot of men will say very little, but within that little bit is a lot. And they don't necessarily, if they do share something, they don't necessarily want to go back and analyze it. A lot of times men don't open up a lot, partly because they don't want to sit there and psychoanalyze it. As women, we want to get all the details. We want to hear the whole story. We want to really dig in. And sometimes that's all they want to say. So you got to be very careful, especially if he's closed off. Teresa, how much did he lie about his age? It depends. Like, did you ask, was it online? Did he fudge it by a few years? Did you ask him and then he backpedaled and didn't, and lied again? I mean, it really depends. Like online, lots of people will put their age down a little bit so that they can come under the, if they're 41, they may say 39. So he lied in person. How many years? By how many years? He just told you he lied about his age. Debbie says, change the station to get rid of the voices. Say something out loud that's the opposite of the voice that's playing. That you can do that. That's a good thing to do, Debbie. Can a man change? Sure, anybody can change, if they really want to, but it's how you go about, talking to a man about things, Debbie. A man has to want to change for himself. You can't convince him to change. So you can't keep browbeating a man or telling him over and over again. If a man's going to change, it's because he wants to. You can tell him how his behavior makes you feel and the impact it's having on you. You can say that you're drinking, when you drink too much, you get you check out, you're distant, and I feel like you're not here with me, and it isn't comfortable. I don't really like it. It's been happening more and more, and it's really uncomfortable. It's not how I would want to spend my evenings with you. And then it's up to him to see if he changes or if he wants to change. But if you give him an ultimatum or push him, he'll just dig his feet in. So Linda says, been dating a guy for a few months. Things were going well, was consistent, seeing each other 2 to 3 days a week. On the days he's busy, I rarely hear from him, which bothers me. Last 2 weekends, he was busy, so I didn't see him. Sent him a text that I thought our plans were solid and texted him that nicely. And he said, I'm sorry, this is the reason I haven't been able to have a relationship with anyone. That reply is not sitting well with me. Well, I think he felt that he didn't like what you wrote, but he also said, this is the reason I haven't been able to have a relationship with anyone. I mean, that says it all right there. He didn't like what you said to him, but you struck a nerve because what you said was true. So he doesn't really, women are not happy with the fact that he's not making plans or that he doesn't follow through or that he's busy and he doesn't stay connected. And it's been an issue. So you have to decide if you're okay with the way it is or, why it bothers you. And if you can be cool with not hearing from him and let that slide. Or if it really bothers you, then, he's not your guy because he's not going to change. Wow. Well, that's a big age difference, Teresa. I don't know how old you are, but, the difference between 48 and 57 is a lot of years. So, yeah, that's a lot of years. Karen says, I've been dating a nice, boring man for 3 months now. I set the boundaries of 1 day of no physical intimacy unless we got to a point of knowing we wanted to build, at day 1, that we wanted to build a life together. He lived 50 miles away. Recently, he's been pushing to stay over. What are your views on when, if ever, before marriage, should you get physically intimate? Well, Karen, I think some people wait till marriage when they're, for religious reasons, but I don't think adults in this day and age that it's, necessarily a healthy thing. And a lot of times people just aren't sexually compatible. Some people like sex a lot more than the other person does. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen, but it's really a rough road if you wait until you get into a marriage to have sex and then find out that, the two of you have very different sexual wants and needs. So that alone can just drive a wedge between a couple. And then, I know some people who have gotten into marriages and the guy, he was willing to wait because he didn't have any libido. And now these women are in marriages with men who aren't sexual at all. So I don't know. I tell my clients to wait at least 6 weeks, to get to know somebody and be exclusive. But that's because many people are having sex at 6, not even 6 dates. They have sex after, the first night. The statistics on how many, not with COVID, but the statistics on how many people have sex on the first date is horrifying. And, sometimes it's, by the third date, people think, oh, if we've gone on 3 dates, the third date, 3-date rule. But I encourage my clients to at least wait 6 weeks and until they're exclusive. Debbie said, glad he wasn't counting votes. That's really good, Debbie, but I don't want to laugh at her situation. Teresa, that's a lot. That's 20 years. That's a huge difference. Yeah, I agree with Katie. I think you deserve someone who, yeah. When dating a few men, how much physical intimacy do you think is okay with one of the men? Lisa, you have to set that boundary for yourself. If you're having intercourse with a man, for most women, they don't want to be dating other people if they are. But, obviously you would only be having intercourse with one man at a time, ideally. And you have to decide, if you're having sexual contact and all, it's up to you how far you choose to go with any one man. But, I would draw the line at intercourse. Debbie says he has trust issues. He may be the one being unfaithful. Yeah. Yep. It's very true. Whoopsie. So Alyssa said, I say just be very vulnerable with a tad of silliness. My Pepto-Bismol face masks gets them every time. Yeah, Lisa, I think that's okay. That's fine. That is totally, totally fine. Truly, I don't think that there's anything wrong with second base. Gloria says, I have 2 questions. If we are initiating the conversation and he doesn't respond, and he does respond, but he doesn't initiate the conversation, is it chasing him? If we continue initiating the conversation, or should we not respond and let him initiate? Yeah, Gloria, it's fine, for you to send a message, but if you're constantly the one who's messaging, then there's got to be reciprocity. There's got to be some on your end, some on his end, but it's got to go back and forth. It has to. You can't be doing all the work. And some guys are polite, they'll respond, but it doesn't mean that they're interested. They're just being responsive or whatever. Anybody else? We've got a few more minutes here. So I am at your service. What to say to a guy who texts you but rarely calls? Say, I don't want a pen pal. I want I want somebody I can really get to know. But guys don't like to be called pen pals because it makes them think that you're putting them in the friend zone. And no guy wants to be in the friend zone. So you can say, I feel like we're, buddies or whatever, but, who text each other. I'd love to hear the sound of your voice. If you won't get on a call, then yeah, you want a guy who wants to make you happy, who really wants to make you happy. You ladies, you've got to stop wasting time on men who are not responsive. You want men who are going to respond to you, who are excited about you, who want to get on a phone call, who want to go on a date, who want to see you. Anybody else? Anybody else before we end? How's it going out there? Are you all dating during COVID? Oh, Lisa says, so the best way to get to know a guarded man by keeping it fun and let him get comfortable, then he gets emotionally naked. Lisa, I answered this earlier. I said, you want to reward, you want to acknowledge and compliment the behavior that you want to see. So when he does share something, when he says something that's vulnerable or something that he is, sharing with you, where he is opening up even a little bit, you want to compliment him. You want to acknowledge that and say, I love it when you open up and share with me. I love when when you tell me about your past. I love when you talk about the things that are going on in your life. So when he does those things, pay him a compliment, acknowledge him, encourage him to do more of that. Okay? Don't tell him, you're not opening up to me. I can't get to know you if you don't open up. I want to know more about your life. All of that is going to push him in the wrong direction. You're going to make him wrong by doing that. Judy says, I struggle with being flirty. Sometimes I can be overly sexual. Well, you want to be careful, Judy, because it's one thing to be flirty and a little sexy and whatever, but then you need to rein it in. So a little bit of fun, a little bit of playfulness, and then pull it back, and then a little more, and then pull it back. Do you see that? That's how you play. But if you just go too far with it, the guys are just going to want sex from you. That you're going to give them the idea that that's what you want and that you're open to that. So you got to be a little playful, but then you got to make it a challenge. You got to say, oh yeah, I can give it, but you're going to have to get to know me a lot. Not, I can be playful, I can be flirty, but that's as far as it goes until we get to know each other a little better. So it's fun. It's okay to be playful and sexy and whatever, but then you have to put up a boundary or they're going to get the wrong idea. And you're just going to get hit on for sex. Hey, Annette, I'm just getting ready to leave. But it's great to see you again. I end in about, just like I said, Judy, you play a little bit and then you say, it's getting a little frisky in here, or the heat's getting too high. Let's dial it back a little bit. But you play, you give a little and then you reel it in. It's like fish, you like put it out there and then you reel it back in. Oh, you had book club. What book were you reading? What book are you all on? That's so sweet. I love that. I'd love to know what book you guys are reading. So, but you put it out there and then you reel it back in. Gloria says, I'm not meeting any serious guys, even when they say they're serious. So I haven't gone on dates like others are getting. It's like they get on there and like my profile just to be hurtful. I don't treat anyone like that, so I don't know. Oh, Untamed is supposed to be really good. I don't treat anyone like that. I'm trying to be the best me and working on things to have a healthy relationship, but I'm not getting that respect in return. Gloria, I don't know. It might, you may want to look at having new, like really good professional photos done. You may want to have, hire a professional to help you write your profile. Sometimes those things can help a lot. Even if they like your profile, or even if guys say, oh, I liked your profile, you have a great profile or whatever, they'll always say that. But there's a difference between, a mediocre profile and an exceptional one. So, I would be very, I would look into those things and, yep. And beyond that, it has to do with how you engage these men and the energy that you're putting out. So you're the common denominator in that. If you talk to a lot of the women in my coaching program, they don't have that issue. They're meeting some really, really, really great guys. And most of them, when they started coaching with me, were not meeting great guys. They were having problems like you are. So the coaching, changing their own mindset, looking at different men, having a great profile and good pictures, all of that really makes a difference. It really does. All right, everybody, it is 7 p.m. I am off. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful evening. Mwah. I will see you all on the next call. Happy, happy, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful, is that next week? It's not this week. I think I'm a week ahead. All right, everybody. I'll see you next week and I'll wish you happy Thanksgiving then. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night.